Hey everyone, today's topic, how to set up RevOps as a startup when you're just getting going. We've got Nico Druelle back in the hot seat, and he has been the first RevOps hire for many of the world's fastest growing startups. He knows exactly what it takes to build this stuff from scratch. Founders and startup folks, this one's going to be gold for you, so let's get into it. Nicholas, can you walk us through the essential building blocks of a RevOps function for a startup that doesn't have anything like this at the moment?
So this is what I do on a day-to-day with some of my clients. The revenue architect, we help seed and Series A company with implementing the tech stack from 0 to 1. And what it looks like in most cases, one, obviously you want to core architecture is going to be built around a CRM and a marketing automation platform. You'll most likely have a marketing automation platform and a CRM. If you do outbound at scale from the beginning and don't do inbound at all, you might just have a CRM, Salesforce, and some programmatic outbound platform such as Smartly, Instantly, Apollo. Those are good examples. You have your marketing automation platform, use CRM, maybe an outbound automation platform that enables you to optimize for delivery and the deliverability of your emails. On top of that, pretty early on, you are going to want to set up some data enrichment capabilities. Those data enrichment capabilities can be set up in different ways. You have some tool like Clay or Cargo that enable you to keep your CRM enriched in real time based on triggers, meaning whenever a new lead is created in your CRM, it goes through a set of rules that trigger enrichment, and you can set up some scoring on top of it and routing. That's what I call data orchestration, and that sits on top of your CRM to really create a fluid and efficient sales funnel. It would enable you to be efficient, but it would also enable you to understand what's working and what's not working from a reporting standpoint. And then you can layer in some call recording systems such as Attention or Gong for more established players, and obviously some sales engagement tool. You have Apollo, Outreach, and SalesLoft. Those are obviously the big ones. So that's to begin with, your core stack. There's a lot of different use cases that you can build around, but I believe at an early stage, regardless of the sales motions you're going to attack and regardless of your industry, you're going to be covering a lot of the use case, and you want to make sure that stack is well oiled and well configured before adding more layers and more complexity to it.
If you are a startup that is, let's say, blended in terms of the customer acquisition strategy, it's not pure outbound, it's not pure inbound, it's something more representative of the average company where you kind of want to have both of these things working. What is the minimum viable tech stack there? What do you need to have?
I would put two different categories. One, you are a startup that has ambition to scale and scale fast, meaning growing your sales and marketing team significantly after the Series A stage and grow 2x, 3x in headcount over the next year or 2 years. In those situations, I strongly encourage starting with Salesforce. And the reason why, and I realize Salesforce is a legacy player and other CRMs are doing a lot more innovation and changes. But what in those hyper-growth companies is that they hit very fast at a very early stage, Series B, usually Series C, very complex use case that HubSpot as an alternative, for example, which is a natural competitor of Salesforce, don't necessarily accommodate for or does not enable those level of customization. And so what I do very commonly is that I have companies coming to see me at Series B stage wanting to migrate out of HubSpot to Salesforce. So I'm recommending Salesforce as a starting point to prevent that very painful process, and HubSpot as a marketing tool to complement Salesforce. And those tools are really well connected to one another, so you can really get the best of both worlds without any problem. Then there's a second category, which is, maybe small company, established, but don't necessarily expect a huge growth and want to remain pretty stable over a couple of years horizon, meaning less than 20 reps, maybe less than 10 reps. Those companies might see less interest with Salesforce because they have a pretty basic use case. And so in those cases, I would recommend maybe sticking to HubSpot.
As you're working with startups that are growing quickly, what are some of the most common things that you've seen them struggle with that we could perhaps address here and save a founder some heartache?
Yeah, it seems like there's a common pattern in early stage companies, especially for early stage companies that just found their product market fit and they are wanting to ramp up their sales effort and even their marketing effort. There's usually no place or person in the company that has a one answer for how the life cycle of the user looks like. And I think that's very damaging to those early customers, right? Because they don't get a consistent experience. And you also don't understand how those different parameters should be set up. A lot of the work that I do systematically when I join as an advisor a company, what are the different steps from the moment marketing start working an account to the moment sales start touching it and where it goes to CS?
So when it comes to lead sourcing, how do you suggest setting up these systems to be able to kind of encourage exploration? Or obviously you want your salespeople finding new sources of leads, but you don't want this at the cost of all these downstream impacts and a messy CRM and lack of continuity across the funnel and so on. I'm curious, how do you set something like that up, practically speaking, so that it's easy for people to play within the rules, so to speak?
In our world, and end of 2024, there's a lot of platforms. I'll call them go-to-market platforms, not to call them AI engagement platform, but I'll give a few names so it's more clear. If you look at the Ample market of this world, Unify, Warmly, you name it, there's a lot of different platforms in that space right now. What they enable you to do is doing the search piece, what everyone used to do in ZoomInfo 5 years ago, or Clearbit, and then engage with those prospects in the same place. So I think those platforms are helping consolidation of the searching process and the engagement process. So that's a good practice to begin with. If the sales rep are satisfied with the leads they're able to source in those platforms, and you find one that works really well with your ICP, then adopt this platform and make it the central focus point for your sales team. So now you have those different systems you can source leads from that are accessible to rep, right? They can log in and find their leads. The way I usually recommend doing so is to let the rep be able to do search and compile lists based on their criteria, based on what they want to do, based on their understanding of the clients, the kind of initiatives they want to test. But then the actual record creation in your CRM is being owned by either your RevOps person or let's call it a system-friendly sales rep or a system savvy friendly, which is going to be able to go in a different tools and compile that list and follow a specific process. So what you're just trying to do is to have one single person owning the lead creation in your CRM.
So that seems like also a kind of a key spot where you're putting a human in the loop. Are there any other really important connections like that where you'd recommend startups think about putting a human in the loop? Obviously we can often gravitate towards a lot of automation, and there are some cases where maybe you don't want to automate everything for various reasons.
Yeah, I can think of a big one. I think when it comes to lead scoring, which is a whole topic in itself, it's very important to start small and make sure that whatever score, whether it's rule-based or AI-based, which we can speak later on, but there's a lot of very interesting things on the AI side to enable better lead scoring and better predictions at different steps of the funnel. It's very important that your sales reps or that your marketing team as well is being involved when those scores are being rolled out. One, to potentially correct some flaws of the models, and two, to create trust. The flaws in the model can be certain variables that are being used that don't make sense just from a business standpoint. There's going to be some anomaly, false positive, false negative, and you want to fine-tune your performance indicator of your models based on some review. Obviously, you can do some review yourself upstream before the score are rolled out, but I like to have a phase of a couple of weeks when I roll out a score with a team where there's some review system and a feedback mechanism from the sales team. And the second factor is the trust factor. It's however much AI we're going to push into our processes these days, it takes one false positive to lose all the trust that your sales team put into a score. So having them understand the process, being part of it, is helping reduce that friction around adoption.
Could you share a success story that comes to mind from a startup that got RevOps right from the beginning and the impact it had? I think that a lot of founders are probably trying to understand, okay, this is all interesting. Show me the money. What's gonna happen if I really put some effort into this?
Yeah, I have an example of a client of mine that the way they were able to get started on the right track is one of their founders is a RevOps person. So he didn't need to be convinced and was the internal, driver of the creation of that function internally. And he was actually the first person being a RevOps as the company started. Not saying that every founding team should have a RevOps person, but the earlier you have someone with that mindset on board, the faster you'll make the right decision around the frameworks. And that company has been building their architecture, Salesforce, HubSpot, and around a data warehouse early on. So they've implemented Snowflake with different mechanisms. They're extremely data driven. They have a lot of different product complexity, and they want to measure everything. They didn't want to create a go-to-market tech stack that was isolated from the rest of their product engineering and marketing tables. They have a big PLG function as well. From the get-go, they really wanted to blend everything together. They've hired someone early stage, a generalist person with some data abilities. And I think that's sort of the perfect fit for a first RevOps hire, someone who has seen a lot of different cross-functional projects and is able to technically analyze data. So can write some SQLs, can write a bit of Python, can be self-served in his ability to operate the entire stack and give insights. That brought an immediate return on investment on that specific headcount that enabled to justify, as the company grew, enable the company to justify more hire towards the department. That's exactly the way you want to build that function. You want to find the right person with the right skill at the beginning to showcase how the function can magnify the rest of the organization. If you hire someone too senior that doesn't do the nitty-gritty work that you need at the beginning, the impact of the function being less prevalent. And if you have someone who's too junior, you'll have a lot of short-term fixes and pieces of work being done without this more holistic technical view of the function. So choose the right person, do it early, and then build around that person that's going to become. And that person has become the data wizard. He's not a data person, but he understands, he has all the context of the go-to-market data. And the rest of the team that has been built around him is basically able to being ramped up and deliver very high results for the rest of the organization because he had these specific assets from the beginning.
Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed the content, make sure to check out our full series on revenue operations. If you want to pick Nico's brain on RevOps, check out his info in the description, and hey, if you found this helpful, smash that like button and hit subscribe. It really helps us out, and make sure to hit the bell if you want more tips on growing your business. Catch you in the next one.